Six reconvene open session, procedural business, 5:30 p.m. 6.1 call to order. The Board of Trustees are hereby reconvening open session at 5:38 p.m. 6.2 roll call. Trustees to identify themselves by first and last name to formally establish quorum. Dr. Natalie Lindemann, Trustee Area 4.
Dr. Bill Mellinger, Trustee Area 1.
Dan Ridland, Trustee Area 2. Cindy Gardner, Trustee Area 3.
Jordan Zarate, Trustee Area 5, Vernon Springs, Arrow Valley, Green Valley Lake.
Everyone is in attendance, so we have established quorum. 6.3 Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Mr. Wallace.
Please stand. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God,
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's still not done.
7.0 closed session report. 7.1 announcement of reportable actions during closed session. None. 8.0 public testimony. 8.1 public comment period for items listed on this agenda and non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the governing board. The public comment period is administered by state law and is the point in the meeting set aside for members of the public to share their opinions with the board. Open meeting laws do not permit the board to engage in a dialogue or answer questions, though it may not take action on non-agenda issues raised at the public comment period. The board, for example, may refer any matter to the superintendent for review or take action to direct staff to place a matter of business on future agendas. Protocol for speakers. Any person who wishes to address the governing board on an agenda and non-agenda items within the subject matter of their jurisdiction must complete a green speakers form and submit it to the executive secretary to the superintendent before the meeting is called to order. Individual speakers are allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda item. The board limits the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. Speakers who have complaints about board members or staff are encouraged to seek resolution to those complaints by using the Rim of the World Unified School District written complaint procedure rather than orally addressing them at a meeting. The board will not respond to such complaints until the applicable complaint procedure BPAR 1312.1 has been followed and reached the board level. Where a complaint concerns a district employee identifiable by name, position, or other facts, the board cannot respond until proper written notice has been given to the employee pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.
Madam President, a point of procedure on reportable actions. I believe we have the report on 3.5.
I was given direction we do not because we're going back to closed session. And once we finish closed session, we will report out those
Thank
actions.
you so much.
Thank you. The quorum. The governing board is interested in the ideas and opinions of all stakeholders and endeavors to incorporate community views into its deliberations and decisions. At the same time, it must be able to conduct its business in an organized and efficient manner, free from material disruption. Therefore, in accordance with Board Bylaw 9323 and Government Code Section 54957.9, audience members may not disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of this meeting. Open meeting laws do not confer any privilege or protection for expression beyond that otherwise provided by law. The public's understanding and cooperation are appreciated. 8.2 public comments. I will note that we have 6 speaker cards and they are all on the same topics. So if you could be really mindful of the time limit, it's going to go right here. You'll see how much time you have left for speaking, but we don't want you to go over that 20-minute mark or I'm going to have to cut you off. It will like flash and then beep when your time is up. Okay, so everyone is speaking on Rim Girls Soccer. And I'll ask Isabella Hudson to come up first. You go up to this, oh, she's nervous, it's okay, I'm nervous here too. Just go ahead and take a seat there and you will have to push the button so the microphone works for you. Okay.
Hi, my name is Isabella Huss, and this is my third year on playing Irwin High Soccer. And throughout my time there, I've like the people who play, I love them very much, but I felt a little bit like almost like second to a lot of male like sports. For example, like football, like just this week. Our home game, which we don't get to have very many because we're a winter sport, so the weather's not always good, got moved down the hill for practice. And one of them even got canceled because the team who was supposed to come up couldn't get a bus to meet us. And it was like short notice for them to get a bus, so we missed out on our first game this season. And just like, it's very like apparent with our goals and like we have to set them up ourselves, but like if you watch like football gets set up or like baseball gets set up, like they have people helping them, but like we have to go out early and like, put up our own goals. And really just like, it's really all on us. And like, we have to like, I feel like there's a lot of pressure put on us and we're not treated like equal or respected and as the same level as it feels that the male ones are.
Thank you. All right, next we'll have Laura Flores Barrios.
Hi, I'm kind of more elaborating on that. So I'm the varsity captain for the girls, and I'm here mostly because yesterday was kind of the last straw. We were supposed to, as you said, we were supposed to have a home game, but our home game got moved away for the varsity football, just the practice. I don't get how a football practice can overweight a varsity soccer game, especially when me as a senior, I don't know how many more home games I'll get. That could have possibly been my last home game due to weather. And obviously that's scary because all my high school year, I've been looking forward to being a senior, representing my school, especially as captain, and being able to tell people, oh, we have a home game, come support us. Oh, this might be my last home game, but I got that ripped away from me. I was angered to the point where I was about to start crying. And I just don't get how that's a thing, because football a couple weeks ago got a bus down the hill because there was slight snow on the field. The same field that on the same day we practiced on, even if there was a little bit of snow on. How come the one time that there's a snowstorm, they get a bus down, but whenever we've had to endure snowstorms, we have to practice inside. There's been times where we haven't gone, I'd say maybe 3, maybe to a month worth of not having any field time. And also, equipment is a big problem for us. We've had the same goals, I'd say, since my brother was in high school, and that was like 8 years ago. And the goals are breaking down. Every time we go to pick up the goals to set them up, one of the poles is coming out, and we've had to fix them on our own account. We haven't gotten any support to fix them or any money to buy new goals. And just the fact that we have to set up our own goals is scary, because goals can weigh between 150 to 500 pounds. A group of girls carrying a goal is extremely dangerous, and part that when we get cleared athletics, that's not part of the clearance. If we get hurt during setting up the goals, that's on our own account. I also want to say that we don't have proper facilities. Just this year, this year, out of the 4 years I've been to school, have we gotten a proper locker room to change in. And even when we go to change, there's a teacher already there. She locks us out of the locker room and we have to wait up to 20 minutes for a security guard to come and open it for us. And while I do understand that's not the security guard's fault, I feel like there should be a proper person in there to ensure that we can change in time. Because we've had to delay our practices by, I'd say, 10 to 20 minutes at times, just so that we could have the proper person in there and the proper facilities just so we can change. Cause I mean, we're a group of girls, we don't wanna change out in the open, and we don't wanna change in bathrooms that could be possibly dirty. I'd love to be proud of my program. I mean, I want to make a difference. I'm the varsity captain this year. I'd love to leave it better than I left it. And in the 4 years I've been there has been no change. And since I can remember when my older brother was there, it was absolutely no change. Even, we haven't gotten very much advertisement, and when we do, it's only when we win. And it's not like we don't put any results up. I mean, just yesterday, we won a game despite everything going against us. We get the results, and we would just love to feel more supported. And it kind of goes back to the Title IX thing, where we shouldn't be discriminated against in any way just because we're girls. The Title IX forbids that. We should get the same exact treatment and the same exact facilities as any male-dominated sport. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, as I was going. As I was going through it, there actually were multiple filled out by you or in your name. Did you want to speak again, or would you like Mr. Walls to get his chance now?
Mr. Wallace.
Okay, all right.
I wasn't planning to attend tonight, but the team wanted to speak, so I didn't really, I just wanted to kind of clarify. My first experience with Brim Soccer was 1992 as a player. And my first experience was our athletic director. We had a bus issue, went into the athletic director, I won't say his name, Mr. Oakes, and he told us he hated soccer and that if it was up to him, that he wouldn't have a soccer team. And back then that was okay. So that's kind of been that, that's the beginning of the journey. We had similarly, how do you compete for CIF when you train and then you get bad weather and then you go into a gym to train to compete down the hill. So some of the inequities in, I don't want to say how many years that is, but almost 30 years of Brim Soccer and my affiliation, it's finally hitting to the point where it's like it's just not enjoyable for the kids to come out. We do a lot of cold training, and I'm just getting old and tired. I'm like, so I want to improve it. I mean, I'm on year 9 at RIM for coaching, and I know worked with a lot of kids, and it's to the point where it's not enjoyable for parents to come and watch games. It's not enjoyable. We have given away almost all of our home games every year because it's more convenient and cheaper to send us to the school we're playing, and instead of finding a neutral field. So we get when we don't have our field, we give away our home game to the other team. It's not fair, right? It takes away, and I have I think 1 year I had 2 home games the entire season. So I've asked for neutral fields, and I don't have the resources. I have 2 coaches, 2 coaching stipends, and if I have a JV and a varsity team, I have 1 coach each. So I don't have the time and the resources to do all that work. And then obviously do the training and equipment and managing. And unfortunately, trying to get a booster club has been difficult. We don't have a large parent group, and I've watched it decrease. And COVID was pretty devastating for our program. We lost our JV team. Basically, we don't have the numbers to sustain it. And then without coaches to help me continue to build the program and even reach down to start building a youth program, I just don't have the resources, I don't have the time, and I can't do it by myself. And obviously the boys program is in there as well, right? We have similar problems. So we have an outdoor sport, the only outdoor sport in the winter. And we have 1 field now because the lower field, going back many years, we used to play on the lower field. That was the soccer field. And then they put the fences in for softball and baseball, which encroached. And now we don't even have a legal soccer field down below for varsity. We actually had a match contested, and we won the match, and they took it away to the boys a few years ago. the only match they won, they actually took away their win. So it doesn't feel good for the kids, and then obviously the parents, right? We want to go and enjoy games. I know some of my co-fans out here have sat at many soccer games, and there's just not really, and I'm not expecting you to build a dome, I'm not asking for anything like that. I think what we just need is some planning and some support for making it more enjoyable, making it more of a sport. It's the #1 sport in the world by billions of fans. The next closest sport is billions away. And our school treats it like it's a nuisance, is what it feels like. And it's the last straw was the games being moved. It's frustrating. I find out Monday when I have games on Tuesday and Wednesday that my games are moved, and I'm not asked, I'm told that they were moved. So, and obviously I have a personal life and a schedule, and I have to now be at Ruido till 9 o'clock last night with a day's notice. And obviously we lost our first game. They weren't able to attend because of busing, because it was short notice. So we already lost a game in our season, which are hard to get. And in home games even worse. So just to clarify what Laura says, and in the sense that I'm not pointing fingers, right? I don't think Mr. Willemsey's aware of the issues. Mr. Reesworth is aware of the issues. They work hard to do it, but the point is, it's just been years and years and years and years, and then having the girls feel that this week. Laura broke her hip last year. She missed most of the season. So her senior year adds a lot of extra, she broke her hip playing soccer down in Eisenhower last year. So she missed her entire junior year. It's, those things make it really uncomfortable for, when she wants a crowd to come and see her play her senior year. And so anyway, we want to rebuild the program. We want to look at what can we do to make it better. What are some ways that we can make it equitable? We don't have a team room. So when we're outside, I don't have a place to tape. I don't have a place to prepare the athletes. I've used the classroom, which I'm sure my students the next morning like the smell of athletes in the classroom, and it's obviously not set up for it. Our team room we had for years was taken away. First, we told to share it with cheer. I won't go into that, but we have, so then we were asked to move into an equipment room. There's no team rooms. And now we have just a room with cages and equipment. And so we moved out of our team room and put our equipment in like we were asked to. And the team room that we had still has cheer occupying it. They didn't move out because whatever their reasons, so they're still using it. And then we have one team room for the football team that's used. So that's where I think Laura's, decided to do some Title IX research apparently. And so we have a problem there. We just don't have anywhere for the athletes to stay warm. We don't have anywhere to prepare. We can't get out of the cold, and our practices are in the coldest part of the season, the coldest part of the year. So what we're really asking for is an opportunity to kind of just get some more people to the table to help us come up with some solutions. It's not about doing anything wrong. It's not about pointing any fingers. But there is an attitude that prevails around the school. It has since I went to school here that football has more merit and it has more respect. And unfortunately, some of the attitudes of adults spills into the kids, and some of the other athletes feel it. And not that those boys don't deserve all that, they're great. I'm proud of them. I'm super happy to see the football team, but it shouldn't be at the cost of another program. And so first off, we need to look at that lower field and possibly look at how we can make it manageable for multiple seasons, because the football team destroys that field in the off season, and then youth football uses it. And so when we go down there, they don't kick a ball on the field. So if you ever try to kick a ball on the field that's dirt and grass, it's not going to make my team better. They're not going to be able to adjust and get better with controlling the ball on the grass. So then we have the stadium. And then obviously, I don't want to say it's bad for ankles, but I don't have evidence, but I don't want to break an ankle first. So it's not good for them to train on an uneven field for soccer. it's a lot of running, so a lot of cutting. So we can look at options for that, and then also we need some kind of outdoor, maybe something to help make it more comfortable for people to come and attend the games. You know, possibly outdoor heaters or things that could just make it more enticing for these students to feel like they get a home game experience. Despite the fact that it's in the winter, right? There's winters we've had fair weather and it's okay, but our best attendance we ever had was during COVID because we moved our season to the spring. And there was supposed to be limiting people coming in, but we had fans like you wouldn't believe because, you know, it's a great sport, it's well attended, but nobody wants to sit in 30-degree weather and wind in your face without something to help. So, nor do the athletes want to sit there with no heat or no, and then no room to retreat to. So overall, that's kind of our concerns, and then the girls started to feel like it wasn't fair. You know, they weren't feeling like it's fair, and obviously the boys I think would have the same same complaints. But do any of you also want to speak? Obviously, our parents no notice for games, changing games. That's pretty unresponsible for our families to change games the day before they are, and so we just want that to not happen again, and we want to feel like the sports are. And then the goals situation, there are new goals apparently bought. We have had new goals, but unfortunately, if we don't move them, they get damaged. We had one year where custodians, I think, used a forklift or something, and it tore the goals apart because they used the wrong equipment to move goals. But yeah, having kids move goals, and I was told by the football coach that you're welcome to move your goals down to the lower field and then, you know, bring them back up when we're done, but we're not going to do that. And the goals that we did have on the lower field at the end of our season last year, they just tossed them in the corner, and you can see that they're destroyed. So, and again, no, but I don't think it's responsibility of the girls at the end of our season to relocate the goals to a place that's going to be, and we don't have a storage space for the goals. And so anyway, there's a lot of things that are just not really dealt with. Yeah, so yeah, it's been a long, and I've just kind of, as a soccer player, we just went with it, right? We used to play our home games that were snowed out at Cal State San Bernardino. I'm talking 1990s. Now people are charging to use fields, and I think the San Bernardino Soccer Center or the sports complex wants $800 a game, so we went away from that. The one time we ever did a neutral field was when I made the arrangements myself when we played at the AYSO field in Redlands, and then training practice. Can we get some alternate place to train when there's snow on our field for weeks at a time? We've shoveled it. It's really, yeah, if you ever try to shovel a field, you don't get very far. So but it's also, you know, it's part of what we understand, but I think it's just been so long that we've just put up with bad practices and just sort of been ignored, and we just didn't realize how bad it was and why should it be. So that's kind of where we are. We just want more support, we want more minds, we want more people to recognize that it's you got the World Cup this year, and you've got, you know, hopefully some more inspiration to have people come and attend and watch games. And so anyway, those are things that I was going to obviously send through email and work through the channels, but I did want the ladies wanted to come and speak and, you know, make sure everybody knew that they were dissatisfied and feeling like we could do better for them at RIM. So I think other than that, any parents, you know, we just kind of.
They would have to fill out a green card.
Okay, cool.
So I haven't let them, but
Go get your green cards. All
thank you.
right.
Thank you, girls. for
I'm done. Thank you.
All right, 8.3 RTA and CFDA representatives. We do have are you going to speak?
Yes.
All right, our CFDA or our RTA representative. Okay.
This is a nice new room. So good evening, board and cabinet. We hope all of you are well. And I'm going to keep this short since we're getting closer to Thanksgiving break. I just wanted to highlight some things that RTA is thinking of, what's on our minds as members and as employees of the district. So overall, RTA has a concern about the level of transparency with members when it comes to how resources are distributed by creating new positions. Our membership was confused and frustrated that they saw a director of public relations position and various other consulting positions without direct explanation from management or the board about why it was needed and their duties with the district. As employees, we are looking to the board, we're looking at board agendas, board minutes, and we are keeping track of some of the happenings. And we're just like, well, why wasn't there an email put out? This new position was put out, okay, why wasn't it explained? We know that there are upcoming needs that need to be addressed, but our employees have a right to know as well. There are still positions open within the district, and we have concerns for those students who are directly impacted by this. We wish that the onboarding process for new employees was quicker to make sure that our students and teachers are adequately supported. We applaud the raise in the substitute pay as surrounding districts are competing for the same substitutes. And as a district, we need to be competitive to attract quality candidates. This brings to light our overall pay scale for classified and certificated employees. Potential candidates that could be teachers within our district boundaries are going for other districts that pay more, to put it simply. Beyond all factors, upcoming and new teachers are looking at beginning salaries first. And RIM ranks last, dead last, in the first column for our incoming teachers as of district comparisons that I've received today from CTA. And that's just not okay. In the days of inflation and recession signals in our country, districts are subject to the free market like the private sector. And the lowest paid will have the most difficult time in accessing the supply of educational professionals now and in the near future. Employees are looking for greener pastures when it comes to pay, benefits, and overall support systems. RTA hopes that the district is keeping this in mind when considering our proposal because our members are starting to look elsewhere. And the reality is that people want to be paid a living wage comparable to the amount of work they put into the districts and organizations they work for. And ultimately, I mean, higher pay, more quality teachers, quality professionals, benefits our students. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't see anybody from CSBA. So 9.0 governing board members reports and announcements. 9.1 governing board members. We'll start with Cindy Gardner.
Okay, so the soccer chicks that are leaving and Mr. Wallace. So let's talk soccer because my chicks also played soccer. Same attitude, nothing has changed. In going out, now we're gonna get started. So let me air my youngest, Kara Gardner. She was a very vocal person, very vocal. Same issues in terms of the lack of respect for soccer, especially girls soccer, because no team room. No team room when she went. They didn't even go anywhere inside. Title I, Title IX issue. You have boys that are allowed in the team room that's been built for boys, but there are no girl team room. Same thing with the locker. My chick, she changed in the bathroom. That's where they changed. They weren't even allowed access to the locker room. The goals removed 1 year. Steve, I think you may have been coach. I'm not really sure where the goal fell in a girl's foot. Okay, maybe that was Brian. My girl was, she was in high school, 96 pounds and 5'4". So moving a goal for her was really kind of like something you didn't want to watch. It was like a train wreck coming. in terms of the neutral field, during my tenure, I had access to the blast field, which is near Cal State San Bernardino. We had access to it for practices if we needed, but I had to go. I had to go and open that field every single time in order for the school for the team to be able to have a neutral field for a home game. That became our home field. And that year, literally, I think every home game but one was at the blast, which is not really home field advantage when you're hoping the other team freezes their butt off and they don't want to play you because they're frozen. But it's just an ongoing issue that I think you're correct, that there's been, you just live with it because this is the way it's always been. And I think that having the same issues, my last girl, 2015 graduated, Kira. And when I mentioned that they still didn't have a team room, Kara went off and she's now 25 years old and she went off on the same issues that you guys are talking about. I think that it's a legitimate conversation that we need to have. I'm actually asking as we develop these 3-year plans that we put girls sports and then soccer on the list of conversation. I think there's some serious safety concerns when we sit here and say, we're going to pay for helmets for the football players because of the concussion protocols. And that is, and I am totally for that. I'm not saying that. I think that goals need to be addressed. They are falling apart. It's kind of scary to watch the whole thing. I'm grateful that now CIF buses for CIF are being taken out, are being paid for outside of the budget. But I remember one year, we went to second round, we were in the semifinals of CIF. And because football went all the way through CIF, there was no more money for buses. So they weren't going to be bused to their CIF game. And that became a big, huge thing. And that's also demoralizing to be told, I'm sorry, there's no money to bus you guys to your semifinal CIF game. So I think this is a culture and climate issue, as well as a safety issue, as a Title IX issue. And so I think it needs to be a conversation to be had and put into that whole 30,000 look above at our district about things that we have literally put up with for years and years and years and years, because that's the way it's been in the ancient year of 1992. And I think that needs to happen. I agree. And and I know Kara for sure, she was very vocal about her, right, Steve? She was very vocal about these concerns, especially in the team room, and changing clothes was just completely just worked her last nerve every single time. So I think that it's something that we need to address. Sorry, ladies, that you're still going through what my girls went through. Sorry about that. So moving on to another subject. Now you guys can go if you want to. I can do my little rant. So then the other stuff I want to say, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Let me just change from my rant too. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. It was really fun today to be part of Rim High School PTSA. They take care of Mountain High School as well as maintenance transportation because they don't have a PTA and they don't have people to take care of them. So we set up a nacho bar for maintenance and transportation today. And that was really fun. And it was that spirit of Thanksgiving, of actually giving, that makes my heart happy. So that was fun. In terms of other stuff, froze my butt off at front football. That was really fun to see them come from behind on November 4th. Super excited. Good luck to the football team and to all of our other sports that are still competing, like cross country. I think that's it because I've ranted. I used my whole comments really about ranting. So there you go.
Thank you, Cindy. Fiona? I will probably be pretty short here. Just a little rant. My daughter's a 2017 graduate and she also played soccer her senior year. And as of 2017, the situation was still that way too. Where I had a Honda Pilot, so I was able to at the last minute be able to throw 7 students or players into the car because sudden schedule changes and lack of busing necessitated parents who were signed up to drive kids to practices or to games. And having a winter sport outside on the mountain where all of the competition is not on the mountain really creates complexities, increases the expense, makes things much harder on our students. And that feeling of being a second-class citizen in terms of athletics, it was really sad, but also well worth it in terms of the whole experience. So my daughter had a chance to be able to play soccer. She chose to just her senior year, and to play for the joy of it was well worth it. But there was definitely areas where we can do better. Let me see. I am talking about Thanksgiving, very thankful to our staff, to our students for the really wonderful year that we're having so far. There's a lot to be grateful for, and I just wish that we continue moving in a positive direction because we really are seeing some great strides. Our students are doing wonderful things, and our graduates are as well. One of our recent graduates is up for Matt Keefe is up for a very phenomenal scholarship. He's won a national level scholarship. He's at University of Michigan on track to graduate at the end of this year in 4 years. We have other alumni who are doing wonderful things. There's Ian McGilvery was involved with Artemis's launch. She was there at the launch. I think it was yesterday. So our recent graduates are doing wonderful things, as well as our alumni from years long ago. So I've heard some community members mention that, yeah, RIM used to be great, but what's happening now is still fantastic. Our students have wonderful opportunities. We need to provide them with more, but there's still so much to be proud of, and we need to keep on bragging about what our kids are doing because there's a lot to be proud of. Another area that I'm thankful is for Natalie. This is her last board meeting, and we've spent the last 4 years together on the board. She was part of a really chaotic and crazy a run that Natalie and I both voted in on at the same time with 11 different people trying to get on the board. And it's been lovely serving with you, and I wish you well, and I very much appreciate all that you've done for the district. So thank you. And I will leave it with that.
Thank you. Bill?
Good evening, Madam President.
You can only speak if you say nice things. I don't mean. It's my final meeting. I have to take control.
I was about to say, I think about you now.
Thank you.
How he's rephrasing.
Okay. Good evening, Madam President. I would begin by just saying I appreciate the board, and I appreciate all the people that voted for me, and that I will have the privilege of serving for 2 more years on the board. In fact, that there are people actually from the campuses that actually told me they voted for me, and so that's appreciated. Also want to appreciate the staff that we have here all across the board. Whether it's an elementary school lunch duty person who's out there in the cold as well, or a coach for a team, or a teacher, a person who's driving a bus, a security person who's cleaning. And I even appreciate the fact that we have administrators who care across our district, and that includes the management administration as well. We have very gifted people, and I'm thankful for each one of them. And I'm only semi-thankful for the president that we have right now.
Thanks, Bill. What part?
it was fun watching Natalie run for office and her group of three that came on the board at that time. And to kind of feel a little bit of a part of that, we had our own candidates forum at our church, and it was really special, both hearing those candidates and seeing each of you come on, and especially you, Natalie. So thank you. I also had the privilege of being at Paint the Plow again, not just at the one that we had previously at Charles Hoffman, but at Valley of Enchantment. I believe, Tori, that was the first time that Valley of Enchantment has actually done Paint the Plow. And the teachers were out there as well. They actually painted one of the plows also. The students were all out there all throughout the day, and administration, and a great event. And just I appreciate very much the students at Valley of Enchantment. It's a privilege to work with the Early Act Club there, and they're already electing their officers and planning on the ways they're going to raise funds to make a difference in this world. And they are leaders already having an influence. I guess I'll just make this one comment that I think that based on the conversations we've had tonight already, I think we clearly need to look at equity in athletics. And I was not here. I did not have girls. Unfortunately, God gave us boys. But our boys, my son, who was the captain of the soccer team, they were referred to as the lawn fairies by the football players in our school, Scottsdale Christian Academy. But we have this one thing. Our boys won the very first state championship for any sport at Scottsdale Christian Academy. A week later, the boys basketball team won as well, but we won it first. And that was in spite of the fact that we were called lawn fairies and it was a boys and girls mixed team. Even the state championship team was a boys and girls mixed team, and we still won state championship. But I do think we have to look at our equity in sports across the board, and we'll encourage that. That may have to be a topic for our equity committee if it doesn't come up in other ways. And that's it. Thank you. And thank you, Natalie.
Jordan?
Good evening. I think Cindy might have made a comment about 1992 being a very long time ago. It was not that long ago, was it? I will start tonight. I know that our soccer team and your coaches left, but I do want to thank them for coming out. And it's really hard to hear when anyone feels like they might be second class or treated lesser than. So that was very hard. Nobody should have to feel second class. I'm glad that there seems to be some consensus on that topic, and that we should definitely be looking more into that and planning around it. So, but I very much commend them for coming out and speaking and letting us know what's been going on and how they're feeling and what they're going through. Moving on to another solemn topic, let's talk budget. The Legislative Analyst's Office has come out today, projecting for the first time in quite a while, actually, a $25 billion deficit in the state's budget. That hasn't happened for quite some time. So that was disconcerting to see and hear, and that will unfortunately adversely affect all of our publicly funded programs, and that includes our school districts throughout the state. So Prop 98 might possibly be affected by that. I know that we have reserve funds that will help cushion that blow over the next year, but hopefully we see some type of turnaround and don't have to face declining revenue along with declining enrollment from a state perspective. Moving on to some slightly more positive news, I'd like to extend a hearty congratulations to Dr. Bill Mellinger for his re-election. I was watching the results come in, and they've been, first it was every few hours or so, I think, and then the results have been trickling in after that. I think Bill said there was another update today that I didn't see, but he seemed to have comfortable margins. Congratulations on that. And I would also like to just end with, or actually in between, one more thing. I had a really lovely time with trustees that we had at the high school just last week.
Times.
Yeah, times, yeah. It was wonderful. We had some turnouts, which was great. We had some students come and talk with us, which was really awesome. I appreciated learning about the PAC that we have at our high school. I appreciated learning more about how nice that building actually is and the potential that it has for being a really world-class type of facility that not a lot of other schools have, nor do they have that type of opportunity to be able to improve their performance, their wherever they're doing their performances. So I appreciated hearing and learning a lot more about that. I will say lastly that I want to extend a very much heartfelt thank you to our president, Dr. Natalie Lindeman. She's gone through quite a lot in the last 4 years, not just here on the board, but, as well in her own professional career and her own professional life. It's been wonderful to see because no matter what, at every board meeting, particularly when board agenda items come up that we might not all agree on, which is not always, it's not entirely uncommon, but I really appreciate waiting and hearing, waiting for Dr. Natalie Lindeman to speak. Because I'm always curious her perspective. It always comes extremely thoughtfully. It comes from a very local perspective. It comes from a clinical, psychological perspective, what it would impact, how it would impact whatever it is, our students and their mental, well-being. And it comes from a lot of care. So I really appreciate always hearing that. And I'm always waiting to hear, what is Natalie going to say? What does Natalie think? Because her perspective is just so unique. So I think that'll be missed. I appreciate you being here. I hope everyone has a good holiday.
Thank you. The last, because it's my last meeting. It's definitely been a privilege to serve for these 4 years. I learned so much. And I wrote a list, I don't know, maybe about 3 months ago of the topics and things that we have to know as board members in order to do our job well. And there is so much that I didn't know about before I started this. And I attended a lot of board meetings ahead of time to know what I was getting into. I talked to other board members. Everybody sitting at this table definitely knows everything that we have to know, but I, from labor negotiation to budget and finance to real property negotiation, the list goes on and on of things, public relations, marketing, student learning and achievement, ed code, on and on and on. And it's just amazing how much I learned and how educated the people, particularly, I'm going to talk to Jenny because she's the one that's been here the whole time with me, how much knowledge you have and how easy you make it for us as board members to understand not only the history of the school, but just kind of everything. You're irreplaceable. I don't know how else to say it. I really, really value you and your knowledge. I appreciate how much I've learned. And all of this has come from the heart. When we all ran, there were 11 people running because the district was in a really, really messy, bad place. And the board was in a very unhealthy place. And that was apparent to everyone. And we had gone through impasse right before that with the teachers union, and all of us came with a lot of heart, I think, for doing what was in the best interest of the students and the staff, the district as a whole, and our larger community. I obviously have shared many times that I went to LAE MPH in RIM. There was a time during my tenure on the board that I had a student living in my house in every one of the schools in the district too. And I think that as I did bring that voice of a current parent, I'm a little bit, dissatisfied or disappointed with the fact that we won't have a board member who has a student in the district at this time, while they're serving moving forward. And I hope, you know, the next round of elections that parents who are involved in PTA or who just care about, and have the time and energy and resources to dedicate to this, care about being involved, consider running for school board, because I think a parent voice here is really important, and the perspective may be a little bit different. Not that we don't have parents, but current parents are just different and unique to have on the board. So I hope that that happens for our future. And I will always, you know, be part of this community, involved in the district in some capacity. I look forward to potentially starting an alumni group or an alumni association to help do some fundraising and service projects within the school. I could not do that while being on the board and all of my other things going on, but that's something that excites me that we've talked about very briefly, and I want to continue to contribute in that sort of way. So just thank everyone for being welcoming. What this board has gone through with COVID and was unanticipated and quite a challenge. We had some really difficult decisions to make, difficult board meetings to hear how unhappy our community was with our decisions or what we were doing as a district. But I think we really came through it. I'm hoping to a place where there's an understanding that everyone here is really working hard in the students, the communities, and the staff's best interest, and to be able to sustain this district long term is our greatest goal. Even though in the immediate we might have a lot of wants and needs, it needs to be balanced with what's going to make a sustainable district for our community for years and years. And my kids can go through these schools too. So thank you all for being part of the journey with me. I wish you all a lot of luck as you continue. I think you're Dr. Bricker, you're a wonderful addition to this team. And I will be watching closely. I'm going to be in this district for a long time. So thank you. And thanks for your help and being part of this with me. All right. 9.2 Superintendent's Report, Dr. Kimberly Zicker.
Thank you so much. First of all, no, you're going to be greatly missed on the board. It's been a pleasure in my short time working with you, but I think that you have been an excellent board president, and I appreciate your guidance and your leadership for the entire board. And so I want to thank you and congratulate you that you're moving on this, and that you volunteered for the alumni house, which is even better because I wrote that down. So anyway, congratulations to you. Thank you for your service. We all owe you a debt of gratitude. Second, Bill, congratulations to you on, staying on the board and joining our team again for the second time. Because that's much needed too. And I think the consistency is really good for the board as well, as we bring on quite a few new leaders into the district. And this is a really unique year where we did have quite a bit of turnover, where we had to bring on new administration, new leadership. And so as we equip up, it's nice to draw on members who've been here for quite some time. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome, Molly. Is it Molly? Okay. So Molly from Mountain and RVA, she's our She is a proud principal sitting in the room.
And a proud dad too.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you for coming and being represented here and being a leader amongst the students. A little bit later, you're going to see a student report from our board member. So that would be something that we would work with you on as well. But we do welcome you here. We're glad to have you. Just looking forward. So as we come into the district, we're going to do just a presentation at the next board meeting for it's kind of like a summary of what we've learned since we've come, and then where do we think we want to go? We call it the state of the district. We're doing 2 of those. One would be in December. It's really in line with the first interim report on the fiscal side, and then the second one we will do in June. And that's kind of the culmination. But it is a good time to report out on data across our district. Most of the data will be in at that time. And so each one of us will just take slides and present the state of the district, and that will be coming at the next board meeting. Some of the things that we've been asked to do, I think the district team has been responsive to the level of need, understanding the level of need, and taking the time to understand from different corners of the school sites as to what's going on and what we need to address. Prioritizing that is a bit of a challenge at times. However, making sure that things can run sustainably at the current time while we do the 3-year planning that will take to enhance that, whatever that program is really the work that we are working on right now. But some of that will be reflected in the state of the district, and that is coming again in December. I did, following my meetings, I've been like all over the district. I met with time with trustees last week, which was really great. We did talk about the equity work from a couple of parent perspectives and what would need to be continuing forward with that committee, and then also talking to Mr. Williamson about having students and reforming the committee, scheduling those committee dates, and then getting those started in January is where we are with the equity focus. Of course, the board members who were on the committee before will be asked back, or you can discuss that in your reorg if that changes. Also, that was discussed was the performing arts, and that more importantly, the path over at the Rim High School and just the state that it's in. And there was some concern with safety. There was some concern with lighting and sound and some of the components that really need to be in a performing arts center not operable. So we did have a meeting today. Thank you, Mr. Williamson, that with our performing arts individuals and a couple consultants. The use of consultants is really to give us expert information and expert guidance where we don't have it, so that we can make the best decisions possible. Much more inexpensive to hire a consultant. I know it's like kind of a double negative there, but more it's less expensive than hiring a person who would have to equip up to become an expert. That would obviously cost a salary and a benefit package. So to get that expertise in, so we can make the decisions and roll forward in our planning process as sometimes needed. In this case, I think that we will probably need to seek some guidance from experts on to how to bring the Performing Arts Center up to an equivalent line of one, functionality, but two, safety. So we will explore that a little bit more. We had that first meeting. What?
I agree.
You agree? We had that because you were there. So we had the first meeting today, the first meeting of several that will happen. And so we will look into what really is needed. In one of the comments, much like the students who spoke tonight, I encourage students to come and speak to us. Let us know exactly what is happening. We can't do anything if we don't know, but we definitely will shore up the immediate need and then plan for the 3 to 5 year future need, and try to pace ourselves so we don't overexceed any part of the district or the district budget in the process, which could easily happen if we don't kind of pace that change or pace those decisions moving forward. So one of the comments that struck me was an all school assembly, and maybe Ms. Burke, you were there, I'm not sure. All school assembly where the PAC was full and then the lights went out.
Oh, yes.
And so it was then completely dark. There was no lighting, there was no emergency lighting, and they literally had to empty the PAC full of students in the dark. And so those are situations where luckily nothing happened and everyone exited the facility. But those are situations where it could have caused a very large problem. We're grateful that it didn't, but we do have to be mindful that we would have to plan forward so that we can fix that situation So that if something did happen where the lights went out, the emergency lighting would come on. And you could still see your way to the exit doors. And so there are things, much like what the girls brought forward tonight, or much like what we heard from the music programs, but there are just needs around our districts that we need to address and we need to prioritize and thoroughly understand. So I do appreciate the board allowing us to take the time to understand those things prior to making decisions. And then when we do make decisions, I just am grateful for all the board members who support them. So anyway, that was time with trustees. That was also my meeting with the performing arts folks. We also met with room administration and the counselors in terms of the semester change and what those classes would look like. We're working with human resources to staff ahead of our need as quickly as we can, so we can hire and onboard staff now in anticipation for that January transition between semesters, and those new staff members would come on around that January timeframe. The schedules will be distributed, and then reauthorized out. So it is an easier time to make those changes, and it's less disruption for students and it's less disruption for staff when we do it that way. So I do want to thank RTA for working with us and understanding and kind of working alongside of us to make that happen in the least disruptive manner. So that's all been good. I've also met with Lieutenant Craig Harris from the Sheriff's Department, and we are just continuing to focus on our safe schools, making sure that we do have a good pulse on what's going around at all of our campuses. They're extremely responsive whenever we need to call them and handle cases and situations. And then we're also working with Mr. Hanson, Assistant Superintendent of HR, to really look at when do we call Sheriff's Department, when do we call CPS, and try to standardize some of those procedures moving forward. So the Sheriff's Department has been very helpful with that. And then finally, I met with, well, actually a while ago now, seems like forever ago, the RIM Education Foundation. We had a lovely meeting discussing a lot of the different parts of the partnership between both of our organizations. And so we will continue to meet and develop those processes together. One in particular were the grants that they are giving. I think that they are here to award tonight. Some more. So thank you for that. And then finally, we are a part of, or I'm a part of the Advancing Rural Education Cohort, and that's just the cohort of rural schools who and school districts who really have significantly different needs. As you can tell, playing soccer in the snow is no easy task. And it's just very different from someone else's experience. Transportation across our mountains is very different for us than it is for other districts. So it helps when we have a cohort that can create advocacy for us, but also give us suggestions as to how other rural school districts handle and manage things. So we can learn from each other. So with that, that's it. That's the end of my comments.
Thank you. 9.3 student representative report, Michelle Madera, Rim of the World Tech School. And just go ahead. Molly, you're gonna report next time, right? You don't have anything prepared. Okay, perfect. Go ahead.
Good evening, board members and people attended. Hope we're all doing all right. Yeah, these are the school reports. Data control. Sorry. Okay, so CHE. CHE had a fabulous Red Ribbon Week. All staff and students celebrated with a different spirit day each day, including dressing up as a rock star, Western wear, patriotic attire, wacky tacky day, and Halloween costumes for a school-wide Halloween parade. Emergency Services Day was held on our lower field on Wednesday, October 26th, with our fire departments, sheriff and police officers, EMT, and even K-9 units participating with the helicopter flyby. Students were able to explore vehicles and have all their questions answered. CHE's PTA Fall Festival was quite a success on Saturday, October 29th. PTA raised $7,723 through a carnival games, silent auction, and snack bar. Fun was had by all families that attended. During our PD day, CHE teachers focused on literacy instruction via the daily cafe system, which will be implemented in each classroom. First through fifth grade attended a field trip to the Alice in Wonderland play at the high school and had a fabulous time. It inspired many of them to want to take drama when they entered high school. They even had an actor meet and greet afterwards. LE. Trimester 1 ended November 4th. Standard space report cards go home Friday. Leader in me, school-wide class and individual academic weeks, widely important goals have been set. School-wide, 100% of students will meet their math facts goal. Student leadership portfolios assist students with tracking their data and progress. Student leaders have stepped up to assist in various areas. Morning welcome crew, Monday motivational recording crew, lost and found crew, campus swimmer crew, and more to come. Leader in me, core 3 training, November 1, personal leadership. Starts with staff and moves to students. PTA has been busy supporting students this month. Red Ribbon Week, Emergency EMS, BMX, Bike Assembly, and Trunk or Treat Fund. Thank you, PTA, you rock. November feast and attitudes of gratitudes. VOE. Red Ribbon Week was a huge hit. VOE had 10 various law enforcement, fire, and EMS vehicles on campus for an assembly about being drug-free, and students enjoyed the various units show and tell. Second and fifth grade packed the house at RHS for a special showing of RHS Theater's fall play, Alice in Wonderland. Thank you, RHS. Fifth grade classes with a culminating cross-curricular field trip, where students worked in teams to act as early American explorers to find buried treasures. Students needed to use math, ELA, science, social science, teamwork, and communication to decode clues that led to the various buried treasures. VOE partnered with CHP, Caltrans, and Cantor San Bernardino, and PTA for the first annual Paint the Plow at VOE. Students learned about winter safety from CHP and created 10 amazing masterpieces. Thank you, CHP PTA, for your help and guidance on the event. Playground Head Ballet joined students this past Monday to showcase their upcoming Nutcracker production. Students learned a few ballet moves, asked questions about dance, and got to see costumes up close. MPH. LCAP Goal 1, Instruction, Student Learning, Professional Development. Universal Design for Learning Professional Development continues with monthly department-specific training in November, focusing on science. As well, all MPH core subjects are administered in the second grade level standard line common assessment this week from November 14th to November 18th. LCAP Goal 2, School Safety and PBIS. MPH School Safety Committee met on November 10th to discuss the following updates to our school safety plan. Updated school maps, door blocks, and other health and safety planning. Fentanyl awareness, Narcan, run, hide, fight, and other training options. LCAP Goal 3, Engagement and Equity. MPH has a regular and carry over RIMMET Foundation grants approved, including the following projects. 2023 to 2024 reminder binders, STEM equipment, other crops, scientific calculators, and music equipment. MPH highlight. MPH 6th grade students in Miss Marinero's science class engaged in a telelearning opportunity with the park ranger from Yellowstone National Park. Check out the picture where students lined up to ask questions and engage in inquiry with the park ranger. RHS. We have hosted 3 college application classes after school, Scotts University, and are planning FAFSA Day to assist seniors in their college and financial aid applications. Rip Drama was hosting their fall play, Alice in Wonderland. All of the elementary school took field trips last week to watch the dress rehearsals. We hosted over 600 elementary students. The final 2 performances for the play are Friday, November 18th, and Saturday, November 19th. Rip football won the second playoff game last Friday and advanced to the CIF semifinals, which is Walnut High School tomorrow evening. Way to go, Scots. Tennis and cross country ended the season with league championships and CIF birds. We're all very proud of our fall sports. Red Band took first place in the Loara Band Review competition. This was Red's first place trophy in over 10 years. Congratulations to them as well. Mountain High School. Credit check number 2 ended November 4th. 10 students were invited to participate in our credit check assembly celebration. 1 student earned 20 credits alone. 4 students earned 10 or more credits. 17 students earned 5 or more credits. We installed a decaf, coffee, and tea board to build culture, student engagement, and show students we care. Mrs. Williams attended the California Math Conference this month to increase student scores and ongoing professional development to help every student succeed. And last, RVA. Ren Virtual Academy continues to grow. Currently, we have 93 students enrolled and more coming to enroll tomorrow. Teachers have built a common syllabus and suggested daily schedules to support student success. Teachers are put in using Calendly, and we are purchasing Google Voice to increase avenues of access to a teacher, which increases student engagement. RPN has found its first full-time council community and looks forward to meeting next month. And that is all. Yeah. Congratulate both Brad whatever.
She went to the bathroom again.
Yeah. Also congratulate her and tell her that I wish her best of luck to wherever she goes next. And wish you all a good Thanksgiving and a good break.
Thanks for that. And I want to reiterate, thank you, Molly. We have written specifically that we get a student board member from Rim High School and one from Mountain High School. And that's okay. And I am just so grateful that we finally are getting our Mountain High School representative. We haven't had one for years and years and years. I know that you get very thoughtful student opinions. So I am just so looking forward to having you specifically, but a Mountain High School student board member. Finally, we envisioned this to have two of you on here, and now we finally got it. So thanks for stepping up. I know that's what it's.
Yeah.
Oh, you can, oh, I thought you said.
Yes,
you
you
could
can
talk.
No, I wanted to.
Oh, okay, cool.
First, I want to thank you guys, just because like this is really cool, like this is really cool having representation from Mountain finally. It feels like what the soccer team was saying, second class, maybe third or fourth class. Like we do not get treated too well at Mountain. So I wanted to say thank you for like having someone on the board, like it means a lot and I really hope that I can make a change. And wherever Natalie went, I congratulate her for how she's doing.
Thank you, Molly, and we are proud to have you with us. I especially am proud of you. And you, Chuck. 10.0 reports and presentations. 10.1 presentation, Rim of the World Education Foundation. Ladies. Presentation of check.
Yes, exactly.
Make sure the microphone is on and that you. Sorry,
Like my mouth was big.
well, we'll get it on YouTube.
Push the button. There you go.
Okay, all right. We also want to congratulate you. You know, Molly, we're very impressed with you, young lady. And the two of you are representing the students very well for our school district. Congratulations to both of you. On behalf of our Rim Educational Foundation, let me just give you a little brief history. Some of you are aware because, like Cindy, she's been on our board before. This foundation was started in 1987. And so 35 years ago, and it was put together by concerned community people, as well as some educators were on the board, the foundation board. We are still made up of volunteers, as that was 35 years ago. We're all dedicated. We're concerned about making sure every student has the opportunity to be respected and educated, as you two are representing, and so did our wonderful soccer team. Another thing I would like to share with you is that because we are volunteers, we look for funding as many places as possible. So we have written grants to San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, and they've gone from $1,500 a whole year to now we get close to $20,000. We got acknowledged by the San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors. They said that we are such a credible group. We actually are we're diligent about the processing that we go through. No one gets a chance to just say, whatever you want to do with the money, that's fine. What we do is we see ourselves as collaborating with our school district, ensuring that we help fund programs that help young people feel they are getting the maximum possible education in our school district. I have with us today, Dana Chapin is our treasurer, and Priscilla Williams is the chair of our partnership with schools. And all of us spend many hours volunteering to make sure these funds will be available for our students' learning. Well, Dana.
So I'm Dana Chapin, hello, been on the mountain for 35 years, so been around. I wanted to share with you that although our organization started in '87, keep that in mind when I tell you that since 2010, we have donated $503,487.32. That's just since 2010, and we've been supporting the schools since 1987. So we've given, much more money than that. But since then, this year, this fiscal year, we are giving over 81,000 brand new dollars that we've raised in the last year. So it's going to come to the schools over counting the partnership program, the AVID program, and the ROP program. So more checks to come, but this is the most that we've ever given this year. And that is because of the support that we've received from San Manuel, from our sponsors, from Janice Rutherford's District 2 gave us a $50,000 grant that it was all for the schools. And again, they trust us to do our best to make sure that we are working and collaborating with you and the teachers and the administrators on supporting the academic needs of our kiddos.
Yeah, I'm Priscilla Williams. I'm the chair of the partnership with Schools Grant Committee. And the first school that we have an award for is MPH for $7,160.18 for musical instruments and equipment, $3,347.79. STEM program robotics, $1,364.68. Scientific calculators, $436.38. And synthetic frogs for $2,011.33. So
somebody like to accept that for me?
Rim High School.
You're welcome.
I never got a picture.
Are you pictures or Mary Justine? One at the end. Okay.
I'm gonna go.
Okay. Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Rim High School had a total of $27,977.30 for Apple equipment for the teachers, which was $17,082.03, and musical instruments for equipment for $11,180.14.
Yay!
Congratulations.
CHE got the balance of the money that they were owed for $546.70 for some more nonfiction books.
Congratulations.
Thank you. RVA RIM Virtual Academy received $840.89, which just purchased one iPad, but we received the balance from
Mary
Justine, she gave you the balance.
That's a personal
See, now
donation.
we have two, or they.
Mary Justine, as an FYI, is also a member of our board.
Yes, yes. Mountain High School received $1,229.13 for their students. And lastly, DOE received $10,743 for headphones with microphones, VR glasses, Amazon for kids, reading programs for kids.
Oh. As we're getting the photo off that each of the schools were under major transitional stages.
Oh, yeah.
I was creatively thinking of words to use. And the benefit of our collaboration is that we share with the schools what we have available based on the number of students that are in our school district and the amount of money that we have available.
Jill, online cannot hear you.
Wait,
So
I
you
can-
sounded wonderful.
So what we do is that we have a budget based on how much money we raise. That budget generates
Don't make them kneel down too long over here.
oh, yes. Yeah.
You need to get a picture.
Okay, so the bottom line is that it's every one of the focuses that we have a budget and we allocate a certain amount of money. Then for those, for the administrators of the programs, today we're presenting for each of the schools. Every one of the schools is asked to collaborate with their staff and the family members, the parents, to see what would they like to have for their school that's going to enrich their learning experience. So it's a collaboration on campus and then a collaboration with our foundation. We are required to do diligence in monitoring where the funds go. And as a result, we're required by our funders to have documentation of what the funds were used for and the outcome of that funding. So it's a collaboration, and we always want to hear from the individual administrators as they are planning what they're going to do with the funds. We're here to work with you. We're not here to be anything other than a collaborator, and we thank you.
Mr. Valenci and Dr. Flicker, if you tip it forward just a little, yeah, there you go, because otherwise the light is like shining. Okay, let's get you all in there. Tip that, okay, you're good. Thank you. Do you need help getting up? I was trying to.
We don't have to do I get that race.
The checks are not in the mail.
I got him.
The checks are not in the mail, they're in the hand of Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Red Hook Foundation. 10.2 presentation on fentanyl procedures. Ms. Von Fussbach, District School Nurse.
Hi, I'm Maureen Montrista, the new-ish district school nurse. I'm going to talk today about the district naloxone program. I know at the last meeting, community member Bernadette Brown did a presentation on the opioid crisis and the need for naloxone, so I'm not going to repeat any of that information. I think the need is already there. It's probably something we should have had a long time ago. And I don't think it's a matter of if we're gonna need it, but when, unfortunately. So I'm gonna talk very, very briefly on some district specifics. And there's gonna have to be a lot that'll be ironed out later. So just as a review, what is naloxone? It's a life-saving medication used to reverse opioid overdose, including heroin, fentanyl, and prescription opioid medications. It can be given quickly through nasal spray or injection. We would be getting the nasal spray, brand name Narcan. Naloxone is safe, easy to use, works almost immediately, and is not addictive. Has very few negative side effects, and it has absolutely no effect on someone that's not on opioids. So California has an overdose prevention initiative. The Department of Healthcare Services created a naloxone distribution project to combat opioid overdose related deaths throughout the state. They aim to address the opioid crisis by reducing overdose deaths by providing free naloxone. And the California State Public Health Officer has issued a statewide standing order to increase access to the naloxone. This is for community organizations that would be in a position to treat an overdose. So that's school districts, libraries, community centers. It sort of functions, the standing order sort of functions as a prescription in lieu of a prescription. So we can access it and give it. We're already covered under the California Education Code, which authorizes school districts, county offices of education, and charter schools to provide emergency naloxone or other opioid antagonists to school nurses or trained personnel that have volunteered, and to use it in an emergency to aid persons that have overdosed or suspected having overdosed. So for our district specifically, 48 units of Narcan have been requested. Each unit is 2 doses. The designated staff that would be trained would be all site administrators, office staff, including health clerks, attendance clerks, and secretaries, campus security, bus drivers, and then any additional staff as needed, as teachers, coaches. Placement and storage at each site to be determined in coordination with administrators and transportation supervisor. Obviously, middle school and high schools would be the highest risk and need. So at least several units at each of those locations. And then I would like to put 1 unit at each elementary school. Just to be safe. I would hope we would never need to use it. And then 1 unit on each of the buses or distributed to the drivers. The training would be in congruence with education code and CDPH guidelines of designated personnel using a combination of online through Public Works and then in person from myself. Training to include but not limited to techniques for recognizing symptoms of overdose, standards and procedures for the storage, restocking, and emergency use of naloxone or other opioid antagonists, basic emergency follow-up procedures, including but not limited to requiring 911 to be called, the parent contacted, and then transition of care to EMS, and recommendations on the necessity and instruction of CPR in combination with the Narcan. So as far as the timeline, I have already applied for the CDPH standing order, and that is good for 12 months. It would be renewed every year. And the application with the Department of Healthcare Services for the Narcan has already been started. The website states generally 8 to 14 weeks processing time, but I did get notice that it's extended now due to overload of applications. That also has to be renewed every 12 months. We can submit additional applications if we need restock for expired Narcan, or if we use it and we need restock. We just have to give documentation on how we store it, our staffing, details of distribution plans, and we have to report any reversals that we use it on. So that's it. Obviously, there's going to be lots of fine details that need to be ironed out once we find out that our application was actually approved, to come up with a Narcan emergency plan and start with training staff.
have a question, just in the presentation, I just thought about it afterwards, I didn't see whether security was among the people who
Yes.
were, okay, awesome.
And is naloxone going to be available at like sporting events, drama, theater events, things like that, where we actually have even public on campuses?
Yeah, ideally, it should be available at all times, anytime there's an event on campus. And not just for students, spectators, parents, family members.
So I mentioned community at
Yeah.
present.
Where's it, I'm sorry if I missed it, the intention of it being stored on campus, where would it be?
So we'd have to get, with each site administrator at a big campus like the high school, it would have to be in multiple locations, that's, people could access, so
Mhm.
that would have to be determined.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I just out of curiosity, what type of expiration period do you look at when you're looking at what we're going to be getting?
So the nasal sprays initially they were saying 2 to 3 years shelf life, maybe up to 5.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just got noticed that like it goes a year after the expiration date on the box, even it's been approved for, so, and it's so inexpensive. But I was just thinking at my facility, we have boxes mounted to the wall that are break glass ones, so anybody can break it, open it and have access
And we
to
can
it.
request more than 48 units.
Yeah.
So that was just what I requested to start with, but we can order up to 2,000, not that we would need it, but.
So you could have potentially people carrying it with them rather than it being locked up somewhere that somebody has to run to.
Yeah. It might be, something about that size for a couple of
It's
doses.
rather large.
Well, I mean,
And
there's
anything with
two,
that big.
It's a size,
Yeah.
like the box is about
I mean, it
this
wouldn't
size,
fit in
there's
someone.
2 doses, but it would in teacher's desk potentially, I don't know. I work in a substance abuse treatment center, so all of our therapists have one in their drawers, I carry one in my car, and it's not a huge box. And what's great about it is that if a student was to get a hold of it and try to use it for bad purposes, there are no bad purposes with Narcan. So it's safe to have around, and people to have access to it.
If any staff is interested in getting trained, would it be available to anybody who is interested to be able to have that available to them?
yes, anyone that wants to volunteer.
Thank you.
Thanks.
One additional comment, not a question, is I heard on the news today that there is a vaccine that it was reported on in a journal in October for fentanyl. So that somebody gets vaccinated, the dangerous, possibilities of fentanyl would be negated. So hopefully that will become more available.
Yeah,
I'll have to do some research on that, because I haven't heard that.
just inviting our student board members to the conversation.
I just had a comment, I don't know where she went, but I appreciate all the Narcan and everything, it's really great. I'm not sure if this is up to you guys, but just drug education in general, especially at Mountain, should be increased by a lot. The Narcan is really good, that's amazing, but that's a last step. I think it could be prevented way before that.
Thank you. Great inside comments, I told you to, it's good, we know. Thank you. All right, 11.0 reports and presentations, finance, 11.1 budget and average daily attendance,
Just had a question regarding 9.2. There were some subsections in Dr. Cricker's reports and announcements related to weather and air quality guidelines and bond discussion. We'll be doing that at a later time.
under your name, it says what you're gonna talk about.
It was interesting. Yeah.
I had never seen that
I never
before. Okay. Oh, I didn't see that either underneath my superintendent section.
It's okay. It's okay. I just it wasn't discussed, and I don't know whether we were doing it. I don't know whether it's something that we're going to do later or what. I don't believe I saw those topics later on in the agenda.
Yeah, no, they're not later on in the agenda. We can discuss the bond, but we would have to agendize it.
It has to actually have its own agenda item. Yeah. It can't be under a report, a superintendent report, it actually had restrained as its own, okay.
And I thought when we met, it was under a separate
I
item.
thought so, I thought it was as well, no, I just asked, because I'm looking through the agenda. But anyway, it's not, it has to be its own agenda item.
Okay.
And maybe a better discussion with the new board too. I was on here.
Okay, so back to 11.1 budget and average daily attendance report, Jen Haberlin, chief business official.
There's the report also today. More trees. More trees, but they are also in your board folder online.
I have
You want a paper? Paper?
Actually, I
You want one? Okay.
I'm here.
There you go.
It must be
Yeah.
other documents.
It is, yes.
Thank you.
There we are. Thank you.
Hello, thank you very much. This will be a very quick presentation today because we're really in between some of our larger finance reports where we put together a more lengthy discussion. So next board meeting, December 15th, we'll be presenting the first interim financial report. So a lot of the data is in the first interim report is compiled with the final state enacted report and the trailer bills. And that's our actual activity through October 31st with our first really look publicly with a submission to the county office and the state of our updated multi-year projections. And it kind of the timeline fits in school business also with other things, prioritizing needs and negotiations and things like that. It's right around that time we should be developing those anyway. But just real quick, we completed our month 3 attendance. That ending date was October 28th. And the month 4 ends November 25th with month 5 ending December 23rd. So we'll be compiling our P1, our first period attendance report, and submitting that to the county and the state the first week of January. And so with our month 3 attendance, month 4 coming up here in the next week, we have 2,891 students. We haven't really fluctuated much since the beginning of the school year. We're up by about 4 students, and we're really considering right now we have flat enrollment. We typically had a pretty steady trend of losing about 2% of our students from August to June. And right now, that trend might be slowing a little bit, but we're still in that COVID, atmosphere where there's some unknowns on how many students are returning, how many students are moving up here, what's the housing market, exits from California, in general population decline, birth rates decline, things like that. So there's a little bit of unknowns as we move kind of out of a COVID atmosphere and to see, okay, where's what's going to be our new normal. And so we're just keeping our eye on that. Our current attendance is just over 2,600. And we have an overall attendance rate of 91.5. So although that's much better than last year we had a lot more quarantines. We had a lot more people out because of COVID. We're still at a very low attendance rate. A statewide average is around 93. The district has been about an average of 93. So we're not hitting our goal of 95. So we're sitting at a 91, which is also below what we budgeted. So we'll be looking at our attendance rate monthly as well. And if by second interim report in March, if we have to make a budget adjustment slightly for that, we will moving forward if our attendance doesn't materialize. Our Strive for 95, REM Virtual Academy was #1 with 96.48. But I also like to talk about the in-person students, and CG and LAE were really at a virtual tie, so at 93.1. So in your packet, there is just a breakdown of enrollment by grade level and school, where you can look at your leisure. And if you have any questions, you can let me know now, or you can always email me, catch me in the hallway. So. Anything else? But it was gonna be short and sweet today. All right, thank you.
12.0 reports and presentations, setting direction. 12.1 legislative update report, Cindy Gardner, Board of Trustees.
So at this point, Sandabs is really looking at strategic goals and advocacy goals, processes, plans. The big, huge push for Sandabs right now is making sure its members, meaning board members and superintendents, have the information that comes out in the meeting, whether it's bill reports with positions that Sandabs has taken, the platforms, and giving you talking points that you can take to your legislators and make them your own. But the real push is, how do we get this information disseminated to the members of San Bernardino County? So we broke up into little groups, breakout sessions, and tackled some of the talking points within the state platform right now. And I facilitated the adequate facilities, and one big Callie Banks from Yucatan Mesa, and Amy Nguyen Hernandez, who I knew she had a hyphen name. We were in a group and we talked about the need to communicate with our legislators and with whomever that we have meetings with, that facilities are like textbooks. They're required, they're needed for students, but facilities are the last to be considered. And we're always putting it on the community via bond, which is part of the talking point, but it's focused on the bond that we seem to communicate more of, rather than the proposal is to start changing the conversation on facilities to be part of their needed infrastructure. So when we talk facilities, instead of saying we need to get a bond, the state needs to put a bond, it really needs to rephrase that conversation into the state needs to look at the schools and the aging facilities as aging infrastructure. Callie reminded us that the money for facilities was moved from its own little category into LCAP, and so now it sort of takes away from the general fund to maintain our aging infrastructure. And then we also talked about DSA when we need to start educating our legislators about the process of facilities, what we have to go through, because when you add what DSA requires, and the money that can be added to our projects, so one of the recommendations from our committee was to put together a general overview of how facilities work. How you go about doing whether it's deferred maintenance or something on larger scale. Callie Banks, she talked about how they have a very generous donor, like we had with our scoreboard. And what happens is that when DSA gets involved and other entities get involved, your budget increases significantly, or you open up ADA can of worms and it increases your budget significantly. So it's almost like you don't want donations. Here, this money is for your baseball field. We want to improve it. And she's like, oh, that opens up a huge can of worms. We'd rather not take the donation. It's really a sad commentary. We talked about how we can take the talking points, all of them, to our members and our superintendents. And one idea was to have Sandabs representatives do a meeting with at least the superintendent and board president of every single school district and really go over the state platform and the federal platform and the particular bills of extreme importance. So that we can educate our members and encourage our members to take this into their own advocacy and meet with their legislators. So again, the big push is to educate all of the members and this, which includes superintendents, to become better advocates, to really have those conversations with our legislators. Thanks, Molly.
Good night.
Thanks, you. And as such, I put in your board documents, the Sandab State Legislative Platform. If you'll see on the second page in red is the recommendation I brought from our board meeting about the need to change the way we do our unduplicated count students, going from those forms, the free and reduced meal programs, to some other kind of indicator. In regards to enrollment versus EDA, Jordan, I know that we've talked about that a lot. Kevin Gordon suggested that we pause on putting that under full and fair funding right now because we had a huge conversation. In order to change enrollment versus the EDA, because you think, okay, if I base it on enrollment, I'm going to get more money. Except that in order to do that, you would have to move up the money that's in Prop 98. So you would have to change policy in order to do that. And that's probably not going to happen. Otherwise, if you don't change that, then you're just taking the same pot of money and reallocating it differently on a different formula. And that potentially actually would hurt smaller and rural districts versus a more urban district. So if we change that, we might be on the loser end of it again. Not sure that we wanted to do that. So only if policy changes to increase the increased Prop 98 would that conversation have some kind of positive income for school districts like us. So the other thing is that if you move that money, a COLA is funded out of, and does it compete with the COLA and so the whole thing of enrollment versus ADA, Kevin Gordon said he would send us the paper. He hasn't done that yet to explain it more. So that's why that particular bullet point is on pause as we have that conversation more in depth. So wanted to get back to you guys on that. Then in terms, I gave you the federal advocacy update. I'm not going to get into it because you can read it. But in terms of other things of importance, Kevin Gordon said we should be using budget caution. Those are the words, budget caution. And as you saw today, and Jordan pointed out, $25 billion budget issue, and it will be addressed, although no one thinks that the TK expansion will be hindered by any kind of decline in funding. We will have new chairs for both in the Assembly and the Senate for education. So that'll be interesting. Those we'll see who are the new chairs and vice chairs for the education committees. That means rebuilding that relationship. We're going to be losing Connie Leva and Patrick O'Donnell, and they were amazing advocates for education. So hoping that we get people that are that willing to educate themselves on the issue and listen to many sides of the same story. So we don't have any bills that will start in December after everyone is sworn in, and the bills will start coming and heavy and hard in January. So I'll have actual bill reports, but I wanted to kind of give you an update that we tackled the whole issue of how to educate our members. And there are districts that do have legislative reports on their agenda. There are others that just receive an email update and that's it. And there's no board discussion like we have in terms of like how you guys, we talked about the policy, legislative platform. So, oh, and then on the federal side, Bill, the adequate facilities part, having the federal step in more. Kevin had mentioned when school infrastructure was taken out of the president's budget, that there really, the Congress has a hesitancy to take on schools in an infrastructure bracket. They really believe that it should be done at the state and local level. So it would have to be really tackled in the budget, which probably is not going to happen. So I know I made the same face, but that's what Kevin's when I mentioned it.
Are you going coast to coast?
Yes, I am. I signed up already.
Because it seems like it's funny, the comment you just made, I wrote down when you said that the state needs to focus more on infrastructure. I literally wrote down, and federal needs to look
Yes.
at aging
It's not
facilities. It's a
exactly.
national
It's a
issue.
national crisis, and I agree. It's not that we don't want to have that conversation in Washington. It's just how do we want to have that conversation? Where are you going to get listened to? Because there's one person who's in Congress now, who used to be in the assembly at the state, when I spoke about the needs of school, reminding me how much of the budget education received and that there were others that with pressing needs, and we only had a finite amount of money, and how with all these needs, it's challenging to give more to education, which was not what I wanted to hear, but there. So anyways, I think that it's good that we have legislative report so that when bills come, we can take positions, we can decide to write, position papers. So there's other districts that are ruminating to put it on their agenda to have the same conversation. And then I need to go to Big Bear because they're not on stand-ups. So we want to make sure our co-sister, even though we beat them, and that's a whole nother issue. We did. So we want to make sure that they're in the loop so that we can speak, even though we're similar, we're also different, but we can at least speak from the same spot of being rural, isolated, and elevation and geography, all that stuff. So that's my report.
Just in case anyone, thank you, Cindy. Coast to Coast is April 24th through April 26th, 2023. And the early registrations until January 15th, in case anyone's looking to go.
Last year, there was a district that literally had their superintendent and their entire board and one other, I think the assistant superintendent, no, just the superintendent go. So this year they're trying to, which sort of dominated when you met with your congressman, because it was all them. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, their voice is going to drown out the conversation and their stories are going to drown you out. So they are limiting the amount per district so that it's not 7 people or more from one district that dominates the conversation. And then, of course, Sandouts is looking to, do we go as Sandouts to Washington, D.C. at that time, kind of as a tag along, because many of us are also going to coast or on delegate assembly. And do we do some of our own stuff with the Department of Education and lawmakers, or do we do our own separate trip? Very much with a lot of space between coast to coast and our separate trip. So that's all being hashed out within Sandouts, how they want to handle their trip. So I signed up anyways, just to hedge my bets.
Thank you. 12.2 Equity and Social Justice Committee. Bill, you want to or trustees?
So we have not had any further meetings with the Equity and Social Justice Committee since Dr. Fricker and I gave the report last month. As you heard Dr. Fricker say earlier, we're looking at restarting the committee in January. I think it would still be helpful not to assume that Bill and Cindy continue on, but to see if it needs to be any discussion from the board about that, about the board members' participation. We have a new board member coming on in next month, right? And so just think that there needs to be some conversation about that. So does that need to be agendized?
Seems, I mean, you're gonna be on there for reports and presentations next time anyways, right?
So
So during a report and presentation, is that when they can discuss keeping the current board members on or potentially changing them?
So in the next meeting, you'll do the whole board reorg and all the committees will come back up and then you'll decide if you want to either stay on or you'll, someone else wants to volunteer.
Beautiful.
So we will just agendize.
13.0 discussion calendar, 13.1 educational services, information and discussion to provide an update on the process and timeline of the next generation science standards NGSS pilot materials in grades K-8 for the 2022-2023 school year.
Good evening. Yes, Educational Services would like to update you on our process for selecting new NGSS materials. I don't know if you or do not recall that prior to COVID, we had formed a committee and we had met a couple of times, our second meeting being in February, right prior to the school closures. And so that process came to a screeching halt, along with many other things that we were moving forward with some good momentum. So we have regrouped and we have met a couple of times. We're working with Karen Serwin. Karen Serwin actually was a teacher for Rim of the World back in the 90s. She went on to work with West Ed and does this kind of work, facilitating for particularly math and science. She's worked with Colton, with UKIPA, she's worked with other states. She's published. She actually just recently received an award in 2020 from the California Association of Science Educators. And she is graciously volunteering her time to our district. She has a heart for our community. She has a heart for our kids and has the skill set to be able to provide support to us in this area and is graciously donating her time. So I'd like to publicly thank her for her contribution to our district. Bless you. So over the summer, we had teachers, grades K through 8, who came together for 3 days to go over the next generation standards, context, kind of what to look for in materials. We wanted them to have a grounding in NGSS, so as they reviewed materials, they'd know what to look for. So that was a 3-day workshop. Then when we came back, as you all know, our sub situation has been quite challenging. So to try to reconvene the team of teachers has been a little bit a barrier that we've been working around. But we were successful yesterday in pulling the team together again to start a pre-screening. Our district librarian did a great job of gathering all the materials to be considered. And so we had a team of 9 teachers yesterday in the conference room right down the hall here, working with Karen, and I was in with them throughout the course of the day, pre-screening, looking at rubrics, really analyzing the materials to narrow it down to, it was a more extensive list to narrow that list down. So the next step is going to be, and I'd like to also thank our principals who, maneuvered and covered classes and, it was definitely a team effort to bring everybody together. Our next scheduled date is December 13th and 14th to narrow it down to the 2 that we would like to look at for pilot. Then we would pilot I'm pretty good on top of my head for a while. Then I need my cheat sheet. So we're looking at February, March, April for the piloting time for them to review the materials with some Zoom check-ins so that we won't have to bring them back together. And then we're hoping to bring recommendations to the board in May.
Now this is K-8. We have not gone 9-12 yet. We've had a lot of change in our science department at the high school level. We're bringing on new folks. We didn't have any 9-12 teachers that were available in the summer to participate in the workshop. So that will probably be next year's work as a part of our 3-year plan. We'll be looking at their materials moving forward. But the teachers are working really hard. They are being very diligent. They're really looking with a careful eye, and Karen's been great in facilitating that process. So I'm excited about that work, and I think we'll have a good outcome in terms of some really quality materials.
Thank you. 14.0 action calendar. 14.1 superintendent, approve superintendent goals from Cindy Gardner, Board of Trustees. Oh. Okay. Okay. It's interesting on how it's on here. How would you like us to handle that? What do you think is the best procedure?
We don't really do it in open session.
In closed session.
Yeah.
So let's just move on.
We need a motion.
Can we, make a motion to
Cancel it.
cancel this, and then we will, because superintendent goals is in our confidential session. Agenda, we're going back to closed session, so we will address the superintendent goals when we go back to closed session.
To be in closed session?
Yes, because it's confidential.
At some point, don't the goals need to be public?
No.
I think our superintendent would like them to be.
She can do it, but we don't do it. She can do it if she wants to talk about it or bring them to cabinet, but this is confidential information. And the board should not be the one to be presenting confidential information in the public. Nor should we be discussing it. And if she wants to discuss it, if she wants to put it up on the website, that is up to her.
Just a point of clarification that this is separate from district goals or board goals. These are goals set forth for our sole employee, the superintendent.
To be evaluated upon.
Why are they confidential?
Because this is what upon which we evaluate an employee. It's as if we were having a conversation with Tori and establishing some kind of plan with Tori. No one knows that. That's confidential information between the employee and our HR person.
How or why did this get agendized in the first place?
I wasn't in agenda setting. I don't know. And to be honest, I guess I skipped over, and because I thought, oh, that's a closed session. You know, when you've seen it in closed session and you skip it because you're like, oh, as long as it's in closed session, we're good to go.
So in time with trustees, it came up that, some of the things that the staff was bringing to the trustees were really in relation to the goals that the board had set for me. And so those were told to me that they were not published, so it was put on here to be published.
Okay, so we're not going to do that because we will be in so much trouble with our attorneys. So what we'll do is we'll keep it in closed session where it's agendized and do it and discuss it. We don't.
But that being said, if there's ever something that you felt like in your report out that you wanted to say, this is one of my goals that I'm working on, you get the right to do that. We just don't have the right to do that. You guys both look very confused. I want to get to the bottom of it. How can we help get us to a healthy, happy place right now?
We can bring our legal in and the attorney can clarify.
My question, I guess, more so for Kim, is in the past, has have your superintendent goals been something that have been publicly discussed?
They've been published in terms of the direction of the goal the board has given me to work on, so that everybody knows that the work that we're doing is really a guided and directed effort. It's not just something that we're doing, you kind of heard it from RTA tonight, not being transparent on certain things then how do you be transparent? Right, so how do you create the transparency? And understanding of the things that we are working on as a team are really in collaboration from what we have discussed and decided we need to work forward on, and what you have discussed and decided that we need to work forward on too, so.
I can see the benefit of it. I was under the same impression as Cindy and Jordan in that it's why we discuss it in closed session is because it's not for public consumption.
So why don't we just bring in an attorney, because this obviously is an issue, and in CSBA, the superintendent evaluation, they stress over and over and over again that when you work on the superintendent goals, and this is for an evaluatory process, and this whole thing is done in closed session. So if we want to do something different, I think that we should get the advice of an attorney before we go talking about it in open session.
I would just say that we do have superintendent sitting here though saying, please share these. Just a second, Cindy, please. What I was going to also say was is that I agree with you on the discussion of the goals and the establishment of those goals. Those I think should be in closed session. But once they're agreed upon, especially if the superintendent is saying, please share them, and it would seem that they should be shared.
Then she can do it.
I would also add that any other employees that we have in the district, the goals and expectations are clear. But when it comes to evaluating in their performance, that's done in private. But in terms of expectations, I think that that's something that if superintendent chooses to, it's more expectations, not evaluation or performative feedback. I think all of that should be done in private.
And the other part is that all of her goals are based upon district goals.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
All of her goals, if the way they're formatted, they align with district goals. So we could just have conversations about district goals, which we could do more of. But I think that I would feel comfortable, I would like to have an attorney opinion.
And for me, if one board member doesn't feel comfortable and thinks that it might be a potential legal matter, why not table it till next month and hopefully have that available to us so we could get a really solid answer on this. Is this a normal thing to present and publish and discuss? Because it does say goals from Cindy Gardner, and if she is putting her name on it, and she doesn't feel comfortable with it,
Yeah,
and
and
that's not her to have to do it.
it should have been stated. Either.
Just a point of order that we haven't had a motion to even discuss this item,
Thank you,
so.
Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan.
If we want to address that, if somebody wants to make a motion to either, talk about this or make a motion to table, whatever it might be, we ought to do that before we continue.
Good idea. Can I get a motion for this agenda item?
I make a motion to table this until we get legal counsel. And let me clarify the legal counsel. It is to clarify if the goals are to be published by the board in a formal action, or if it's at the discretion of the superintendent. To post hers as these are my goals and they align with the district goals.
Okay. Can I get a second for that motion? Is anybody interested in seconding that? I'll second it. I'm allowed to second motions. Natalie is seconding it. Any discussion, any further discussion?
Well, I may agree with the motion. However, it's already an action item. I don't think you need additional action item.
Every item that has been agendized needs to have a first and a second before it can be open for discussion. If something doesn't receive a first nor a second, then the motion dies. So it doesn't, in essence, it wouldn't be actionable. So that needs to happen before anything is discussed. That's why we always do first, second, discussion, vote.
However, we messed that up and we had a discussion before it. So what is the appropriate thing to do right now to move forward in our meeting?
Let's vote on the motion on the floor.
Okay, All in favor of tabling this item? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that passes unanimously. Thank you guys, and I apologize.
Tabled with action.
Tabled with action, yes. And I apologize for my forminess and not noticing that we needed a motion before we had that discussion.
Can I just also clarify, I don't think we need the attorney to come here for a board meeting, just get attorney's counsel.
That's what I said. Agreed, though. I think that is doable.
Or a possible clarification if this is something that the superintendent wishes to have made publicized.
And
Which then negates the need for having legal counsel.
Great. 14.2 Superintendent second reading approval of the revised board policy 5141.21 administering medication and monitoring health conditions. The revisions were provided by the California School Boards Association, CSBA. Physical impact, none.
So moved.
Seconded.
Bill first, Dan second.
Just a note that I said point of order, but I meant point of procedure, sorry.
Thanks, Jordan. Any discussion on this? Any discussion on 14.2?
Just that I think we ought to take Molly's comment that this shouldn't be our only, how should you say it, prevention that we do regarding drugs and potential death from drugs, but that we ought to look at what else we do at Mountains High School.
Possibly, I just had this thought, opening it up to 18-year-old students as far as whether it would make sense for us to consider having them involved with the training.
That's a good idea.
Molly was asking for more drug education as the first line of fire, so to speak,
Yes.
in preventing drug overdose, and that Narcan should be the last.
Great. Calling for the vote, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 14.3 Personnel Services approval of the personnel page. Physical impact to be determined. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Dana? Second?
Second.
Bill? Any discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 14.4 Personnel Services approval of the classified school employee summer assistance program for the 2023-2020 through 2034 school, no, through 2024 school year. That must have been a typo. Physical impact, none. Can I get a motion? Move. I'm sorry, it was you, Dana?
Yeah.
Dana? I'll second it. Any discussion? Calling for the vote, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 14.5 Personnel Services approval of the memorandum of understanding MOU between the Room of the World Unified School District and Room Teachers Association RTA to increase the class size maximum for grades 9 through 12 to 42 effective August 11th, 2022 through December 21st, 2022. And I get a fiscal impact to be determined. There may be a possible savings.
So moved.
Bill?
Seconded.
Dana? Any discussion?
Just appreciation for both RTA and personnel to come up with a solution for this lovely problem that we have of increasing enrollment beyond what we anticipated.
Thank you. It is a lovely problem. It's a good problem to have. Calling for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 14.6 Personnel Services approval of the 2021 through 2024 collective bargaining agreement between the Room of the World Unified School District and Room Teachers Association. Physical impact, none. Your motion,
So moved.
Jordan.
Second.
Bill. Any discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 14.7 Educational Services, first reading, discussion, action on the revised CSBA sample on policy number 6158, independent study. The California School Board Association provided the revisions, independent studies, new requirements, master agreement, and course-based independent study procedures, fiscal impact, none. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Bill? I'll second it. Natalie? Any discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote, all in favor?
I,
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. 14.8, business services, approval of the MOU with Rim of the World Education Foundation for a monetary grant donation from the Partnerships with Schools program for the amount of $48,497.22. Can I get, fiscal impact is not, again, this is an approval of a donation.
so moved.
Second.
Jordan and Bill and Dana spoke over each other, but I'll give it to Bill. Any discussion? Thank you again from Ed Foundation. Calling for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 14.9 business services, approval for contract number 11-850, amendment 2 for the lease between San Bernardino County and the Rim of the World Unified School District for the premise located at 22836 Bird Lane, Crestline through October 31st, 2027. The fiscal impact is $1,521 of unrestricted general fund local profit. Made a motion.
So moved.
Darren? Okay, anyone?
Second.
No? Any discussion?
I would appreciate just further, just explanation of what this is for.
Hi, thank you. This is the Head Start preschool where they have their leasing land, at which they have one of their own portables on and one of our portables and an office space.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 15.0 consent calendar, items pulled for separate vote and discussion to be taken into consideration during agenda item 16.0. Do I have anyone that would like to take out items? What do you got? 15.5, please. 15.5. Anyone else?
What was that?
15.5 is going to be removed. Can I get a motion for that, please? Is it not in, it's in a weird order on here? Yes. Yeah, don't worry about it. So, I need to get a motion then for 15.1, 15.2, 15.3, 15.4, 15.6, 15.7, 15.8, 15.9, 15.10, 15.11, 15.12, 15.13, 15.14.
So moved.
Jordan
Seconded.
and Dana, any discussion on those?
This appreciation about moving, I'm moving the, increasing our sub pay. I think that was, is necessary, so I'm glad that's on here.
Calling for the vote, all in favor?
I,
Any opposed? All those passed unanimously. Now we're gonna do 15.5, which was pulled. Educational services, approval to purchase musical instruments from LHP Music Incorporated, DBA Nick Rail Music for elementary MPH and Rim High School music programs for the 2022-2023 school year. The fiscal impact is $150,000 for ESSER funds. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Dana?
Second.
Bill? And Dana, I believe you would like to discuss.
I would, just clarification with this item is that there was money that was definitely, put aside last board meeting, $150,000 for the K through 12, music program in the district. And so it was for $150,000, and this is for the full 150,000. And so, my one concern with this is that this money may not cover all of the needs for the musical program for this school year. Understand that, Rivet Foundation is donating money to MPH and to the high school, significant thousands of dollars to each of the programs for music. I just want to make sure that with this funding, the music programs will have what they need. Potentially, I'm specifically concerned about sound equipment and having our students outfitted, but not being able to adequately perform by having inadequacies there. So I wanted to open that up for discussion.
I guess my concern also is this is to purchase instruments for the amount that was approved, and there's nothing. I mean, is there more money to maintain the instruments that we are purchasing right now?
That's something that needs to be built into the budget, and if the board stresses that that's a priority, then that would be something that would be taken through the budget process to put in maintain musical instruments, just like Chromebook sustainability. It would be a sustainability piece. The other part is the sound equipment is just a separate issue. I understand it's in conjunction with, but that is a completely separate piece to that the focus with the instruments themselves. We need to finish that process and that business and then tackle the sound at each school site. And know that LAE PTA just purchased over $5,000 worth of sound equipment pieces. So I don't know how, I think that's something that needs to be worked out with this individual sites as well.
Yeah.
Is just to take a look, but that's a separate issue. And I think that the maintenance part of the instruments needs to be discussed in the budget process.
I would also say that, the current budget that exists for the program has, all of those funds have been used to maintain the age of instruments that they have and broken ones. So hopefully the cost of maintenance will be lesser going forward.
Actually, in the past, I don't believe there was, historically, at least from my kids' experience, they supplied your own instruments. So if the music program funding went more towards consumables such as reeds, grease, strings, and the like. So I don't think that has been a part of funding historically.
It has been, I sat with Ms. Stebbing to talk through all of that, and she uses all of the strings that she can pull with their instruments vendor. They actually drive a van up, has a whole repair kit in the van, and they repair them on site. They come from Riverside, but yes, but there has been. That's what most of her budget goes towards. It does, of course, go to consumables, for sheet music, things of that sort as well.
There has been historically a budget in their site budget, 2,000 for their consumables and 2,000 for their music instrument repairs, and those are two different POs that purchase recs. But again, it's only 2,000. So if we want to have that debate about sustainability, then that is definitely a conversation that can be had through the district level, if you wish. Just saying that that's a concern in terms of sustainability.
I'm not positive, but I believe what we approved at the last board meeting was $150,000 for the music program, not specifically for instruments.
Yes.
And so, gosh, it was heartbreaking going to the choir performance in June and having the struggles they had with the sound system. So, the idea that
Which the sound, again, as Cindy's saying, the sound systems use more than just the music department. So if what we're approving is for the music department and they choose to use it on instruments purely, good on them, yay on them, hooray. But so many other departments utilize the sound system that it's really a different discussion and shouldn't be coming. Shouldn't be coming from their money, you know what I mean, that we've assigned to the music department. This is a wider school issue in all of our schools, that from
from assemblies to PTA, PTA uses of it to, performances to sports to everyone uses the sound equipment and it's a facility issue, not a music department issue. Am I wrong?
No, a clarifying question, when the choir, it was in the PAC?
It was in the PAC and they had NPH's bands speakers that were brought over because the high school speakers
Right,
weren't
didn't have
there.
their, and that's not the music department's fault, that's, that's a school, that's a site's fault.
And that was part of the discussion and
Our
time
responsibility.
responsibility of the PAC. That Dr. Fricker took a ton of notes, I did too, and sound, the sound and lighting, the dimmers. That whole thing was brought up in terms of what the needs are for the PAC. So just, it has been brought up to the superintendent.
And you can add it on as a future board item, if that's what you would like to do about it was brought up in time with trustees, and if you're as a concern, we can add that on as a future board item.
That's a great idea.
I was
Okay, can
gonna
we,
say that, yeah.
yeah, but in regards to this agenda item, do you have any further discussion specifically related to it, or is this better to discuss at 16.0? Or I'm sorry, 17.1.
Just to let you know, Dan, that was the allocated funding that Dr. Fricker was able to find in our ESSER funds for this. The impression or my understanding was that these funds were going to be used solely for instrument purchases to replace a depleted inventory. So that was my understanding, and I believe, I don't want to speak for Mrs. Stebbins, but it sounded like that was what she wanted the funds for initially. Now, it's not to say there aren't additional needs though for the program, and I did bring it up then that we'll need to make investments, but it does sound a good agenda item to talk about at least.
All right, so for 15.5, I'm calling for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 17.0 governance team future agenda items and planning. 17.1 time allotted for the Board of Trustees to request agenda items for future meetings. I think we just did that. Any other?
Well, I have a question, just Joanna, on the sound system, do you want to include that in a discussion about the KC? Sound system specifically?
I don't think we need to have it as an agenda item. I trust will be part of the planning process that we're going through. So I'm sure if the high school sees it as being something that needs to be addressed, they will. It's more concerns with the last agenda item that we have we are putting a lot of money into the music program, and they still may not have what they need in order to be able to perform, and wanting to be able to make sure that we are supporting the students. But I also know that there's a lot of different areas that have needs, and we're gonna have to gauge all of them against each other and prioritize. So I don't want to elevate one concern over another. We need to have a more holistic view. So I don't, like I said, I don't see a need to have it this specifically as an agenda item.
Thank you. That's a good approach. Any other contributions from the team?
I want to make sure that we do that, talking about the bond on a future, in a future meeting.
Clarification, discussion plus a vote to move forward or not move forward, correct?
Actually, discussion at that point, and then we can decide at a later time. I mean, but I think that in terms of prioritizing and being able to plan for the next couple of years, at least us being able to have that initial discussion, I think would be valuable.
That's what I wanted to clarify. Seeing nothing else, I will move to 18.0 future meeting dates. Regular board meeting, December 15th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. in the Thorold Unified School District, 24740 San Rights Way, Crestline, California, 92325. 19.0 recess to closed session if necessary. It is necessary. The Board of